Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Jabirari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Ivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kavihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kavihari Jaya Gopi Vanachalava Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Vardhari Yashodanandana Bhajajanarangana Yashodanandana Bhajajanarangana Yamunatira Vanasari Yamunatira Vanasari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Ramishnipada Braham Separajacharya Shadashadan Shri Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki. His confounder Charya Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ramishnipada Braham Separajacharya Shadashadan Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki. Kantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki. Nitai Gaur Pramanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 1, The History of the Life of Ajamil, Text 1. So it's 611 in case anybody wants to bring it up on their phone. Shri Parikshit Uvacha
Shri Parikshit Uvacha.
Nivritti Marga Katita
Nivritti Magra Katita.
Adau Bhagavata Yata
Aha Adau Bhagavata Yata.
Prama Yogo Palabdena
Amayoga Palatena.
Brahmana Yad Asamsriti
Brahmayati Samskriti.
Shri Parikshit Uvacha
Shri Parikshit Uvacha.
Nivritti Marga Katita
Nivritti Marga Katita.
Adau Bhagavata Yata
Adau Bhagavata.
Prama Yogo Palabdena
Brahmayoga.
Brahmana Yad Asamsriti
Brahmayati Samskriti.
Shri Parikshit Uvacha
Shri Parikshit Uvacha.
Nivritti Marga Katita
Nivritti Marga.
Adau Bhagavata Yata
Adau Bhagavata.
Brahma Yogo Palabdena
Brahmayoga.
Brahmana Yad Asamsriti. Would I like to repeat?
Shri Parikshit Uvacha.
Shri Parikshit Uvacha
Nivritti Marga Katita.
Nivritti Marga Katita
Adau Bhagavata Yata.
Adau Bhagavata Yata
Brahmayoga Palabdena.
Brahma Yogo Palabdena
Brahmana Yat Asamsrite.
Shri Parikshit Uvacha
Shri Parikshit Uvacha
Nivritti Marga Katita
Nivritti Marga Katita
Adau Bhagavata Yata
Adau Bhagavata Yata
Brahmayoga Palabdena
Brahma Yoga Palabdena
Brahmana Samskriti.
Brahmana Yoga Palabdena. Would you like to repeat?
Shri Parikshit Uvacha
Shri Parikshit Uvacha
Nivritti Marga Katita
Nivritti Marga Katita
Adau Bhagavata Yata
Adau Bhagavata Yata
Palabdena Yajna Sanchita Shri Parikshit Uvacha Nivritti Marga Katita Adau Bhagavata Yata Amayoga Palabdena
Shri Parikshit Uvacha
Shri Parikshit Uvacha
Maharaj Parikshit said, Nivritti Marg,
Nivritti Marga
the path of liberation,
Katita
Katita,
Katita
described,
described
Adau,
and
in the beginning,
the
Bhagavata, by your holiness, Yata,
Yata,
duly,
Yuri,
Krama, gradually,
Gradually,
Yoga Upalabdena,
Yoga Parapena,
obtained by the yoga process.
obtained by the process.
Brahmana,
Brahman,
along with Lord Brahma,
Brahman,
after reaching Brahmaloka.
After reaching Brahma,
Yat,
yeah,
by which way?
by which way
Asamsriti,
comes the way,
cessation of the repetition of birth and death.
cessation of glorification of God and death.
So this is the first verse in the chapter, and there's a chapter summary. So I'll read the chapter summary and then read the verse and purport. All right, so chapter 1, the history of the life of Ashmi. Throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are descriptions of 10 subject matters, including creation, subsequent creation, and the planetary systems. Shukadeva Goswami, the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, has already described creation, subsequent creation, and the planetary systems in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th cantos. Now in the 6th canto, which consists of 19 chapters, he'll describe Poshana, or protection by the Lord. The first chapter relates the history of Ajmi, who was considered a greatly sinful man, but was liberated when 4 order carriers of Vishnu came to rescue him from the hands of the order carriers of Yamaraj. A full description of how he was liberated, having been relieved of the reactions of his sinful life, is given in this chapter. Sinful activities are painful both in this life and in the next. We should know for certain that the cause of all painful life is sinful action. On the path of fruitive work, one certainly commits sinful activities, and therefore, according to the considerations of karma kanda, different types of atonement are recommended. Such methods of atonement, however, do not free one from ignorance, which is the root of sinful life. Consequently, one is prone to commit sinful activities even after atonement, which is therefore very inadequate for purification. On the path of speculative knowledge, one becomes free from sinful activities by understanding things as they are. Therefore, the acquirement of speculative knowledge is also considered a method of atonement. While performing fruitive activities, one can become free from the actions of sinful life through austerity, penance, celibacy, control of the mind and senses, truthfulness, and the practice of mystic yoga. By awakening knowledge, one may also neutralize sinful reactions. Neither of these methods, however, can free one from the tendency to commit sinful activities. By bhakti yoga, one can completely avoid the tendency for sinful life. Other methods are not very feasible. Therefore, the Vedic literature concludes that devotional service is more important than the method of karma kanda and jnana kanda. Only the path of devotional service is auspicious for everyone. Fruitive activities and speculative knowledge cannot independently liberate anyone, but devotional service, independent of karma and jnana, is so potent that one who has fixed his mind at the lotus feet of Krishna is guaranteed not to meet the Yamadutas, the order carriers of Yamaraj, even in dreams. To prove the strength of devotional service, Shukadeva Goswami described the history of Ajmil. Ajmil was a resident of Kanyakubja, modern-day Kannauj. He was trained by his parents to become a perfect Brahmana by studying the Vedas and following the regulative principles. But because of his past, this youthful Brahmana was somehow attracted by a prostitute. And because of her association, he became most fallen and abandoned all regulative principles. Ajamil begot in the womb of the prostitute 10 sons, the last of whom was called Narayan. At the time of Ajamil's death, when the order carriers of Yamaraj came to take him, he loudly called the name of Narayan in fear because he was attached to his youngest son. Thus he remembered the original Narayan, Lord Vishnu. Although he did not chant the holy name of Narayan completely offensively, it acted nevertheless. As soon as he chanted the holy name of Narayan, the order carriers of Lord Vishnu immediately appeared on the scene. A discussion ensued between the order carriers of Lord Vishnu and those of Yamaraj. And by hearing that discussion, Ajmil was liberated. He could then understand the bad effects of furtive activities and could also understand how exalted is the process of devotional service. So this is a translation now from text 1. Maharaj Parikshit said, "O my Lord, O Shukadev Goswami, you have already described in the second canto the path of liberation, Nivritti Marg. By following that path, one is certainly elevated gradually to the highest planetary system, Brahmaloka, from which one is promoted to the spiritual world along with Lord Brahma. Thus one's repetition of birth and death in the material world ceases." Purport. Since Maharaj Parikshit was a Vaishnava, when he heard the description at the end of the 5th canto of the different hellish conditions of life, he was very much concerned with how to liberate the conditioned souls from the clutches of Maya and take them back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, he reminded his spiritual master, Shukadev Goswami, about the Nivritti Marg, or the path of liberation, which he had described in the 2nd canto. Maharaj Parikshit, who at the time of death was fortunate to have met Shukadev Goswami, inquired from Shukadev Goswami about the path of liberation at that crucial time. Shukadev Goswami very much appreciated his question and congratulated him by saying, "Variyanesha te prashna krito loka hitam nirpa atmavid sammata pumsam shrotva dishuya para." My dear king, your question is glorious because it is very beneficial for all kinds of people. The answer to this question is the prime subject matter for hearing, and it is approved by all transcendentalists. Maharaj Parikshit was astonished that living entities in the conditional stage do not accept the path of liberation, devotional service, instead of suffering in so many hellish conditions. This is the symptom of a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava is an ocean of mercy. Haradukaduki. He is unhappy because of the unhappiness of others. Therefore, Maharaj Parikshit, being compassionate towards the conditioned souls suffering in hellish life, suggested that Shukadev Goswami continue describing the path of liberation, which he had explained in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam. The word asamsriti is very important in this connection. Samsriti refers to continuing on the path of birth and death. Asamsriti, on the contrary, refers to Nivritti Marg, or the path of liberation, by which one's birth and death ceases, and one gradually progresses to Brahmaloka, unless one is a pure devotee who does not care about going to the higher planetary systems, in which case one immediately returns home, back to Godhead, by executing devotional service. Deham Punai Janma Naiti. Maharaj Parikshit, therefore, was very eager to hear from Shukadev Goswami about the path of liberation for the conditioned souls. According to the opinion of the Acharyas, the word Krama Yogo Palabdena indicates that by first performing Karma Yoga, and then Jnana Yoga, and finally coming to the platform of Bhakti Yoga, one can be liberated. Bhakti Yoga, however, is so powerful that it does not depend on Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga. Bhakti Yoga itself is so powerful that even an impious man with no assets in Karma Yoga, or an illiterate with no assets in Jnana Yoga, can undoubtedly be elevated to the spiritual world if he simply adheres to Bhakti Yoga. Mam evaishyasi asamshaya. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that by the process of Bhakti Yoga, one undoubtedly goes back to Godhead, back home to the spiritual world. Yogis, however, instead of going directly to the spiritual world, sometimes want to see other planetary systems, and therefore they ascend to the planetary system where Lord Brahma lives, as indicated here by the word Brahmana. At the time of dissolution, Lord Brahma, along with all the inhabitants of Brahmaloka, goes directly to the spiritual world. This is confirmed in the Vedas as follows. Brahmana saha te sarve samprate pratischare parasyante kritatmana pravishanti parampadam. Because of their exalted position, those who are on Brahmaloka at the time of dissolution go directly back home, back to Godhead, along with Lord Brahma. Om Aginata Mandasya Ginanjana Shlakaya Chakshalantamana Tasmai Shri Guru Nama. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Sadguru Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we are starting with the sixth canto, Srimad Bhagavatam. We just finished the fifth canto. And at the end of the fifth canto, as I'm sure most of us are aware, is the description of the hellish planets, which can be pretty intense. I don't know how long it's been since you guys have read the fifth canto, but at the end, it describes all of the different planets overseen by Yamaraj, where he punishes the conditioned souls for sinful activities. And actually a lot of things that, we might not consider to be so serious nowadays actually are still punished, right? I remember one of the verses that we read that I gave class on was that, if you look at your guests in the wrong way, that is punishable by being sent to a hellish planet. Nowadays we think like, a guest stays too long, you just look at them in a certain way and, they get the message to leave. I know there's, a saying, English saying that fish and house guests start to stink after 3 days. So we might not think of these things even, like things that we don't even think of as sinful activities, actually are punished by Yamaraj. And Maharaj Parikshit, on behalf of the conditioned souls, was very concerned with these descriptions. Of course, us as conditioned souls might be concerned on our own behalf for these descriptions, because in many places these descriptions can induce a lot of fear in the mind. I remember when I was pretty young, probably way too young, I read Dante's Inferno. You guys are familiar with Dante? Of course, and Dante's Inferno is a description of hell from the Christian perspective. I was just freaked out because even though it's a fictional story, the descriptions are very intense. And of course, like the idea of hell that we have in Western culture is different than the Vedic one, in that the Vedic viewpoint, the viewpoint of Bhagavatam, is not that hell is eternal. You go to Yamaraj for a certain amount of time to be punished for your sinful activities, and then you get another birth, depending on how much karma you have left, either in the lower species of life, or even as a human, or even as a demigod. And this is actually required for various reasons. One, of course, is, as I mentioned, that we have karma that we are supposed to or need to get the reactions for. It's actually really impossible to tell how many karmic reactions we have stored up from our previous lives. I've heard it described before that all of the karma that we have saved up from our previous lives is compared to an ocean. And when it takes time to get a body, one handful is taken out. Think about how many handfuls it would take to empty, let's say, the Atlantic Ocean. And once we get the body, so the human form of life at least, we're adding more, we're getting more karma. So we need to get those reactions. And also, there's sometimes people need to have basically a threat so that they act in the proper way. You sometimes hear from these, atheist speakers, like Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, others like that, that, oh, well, it shouldn't just be, fear of punishment, fear of hell that causes people to act correctly. People should, act correctly, act well from, their own heart, which, maybe people should act correctly because of their own personal feelings but what if they don't, right? What if people don't have those feelings? Then the fear will be the motivating factor. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, when he's describing his various opulences, and how he, in every area, whatever is supreme represents Krishna. And Krishna says, of all means of suppressing lawlessness, I am punishment. So it's just like prison, right? It would be very nice if everybody followed the law out of, their own convictions and their own, moral framework. But what about people who don't? There will always be miscreant elements of society. So therefore, you have to have a prison to punish those people. And there are people who would do it except for the threat of punishment. Actually, in sociological and psychological studies, a lot of people, maybe even the majority of people, fall into the category of they just act correctly because it's too difficult or they don't want to be punished to act in an incorrect or sinful manner. So our people, they can't remember exactly what the study, how it was set up, but basically, people, if they find an unlocked door with a lot of valuable things inside, a lot of people will go in and steal. But if it's a locked door, it's too much trouble. Or if they think somebody might be watching, I won't. So, yes, the punishment of Yamaraj, the whole system of karma, is needed, both for us to learn the reactions of certain things, but also to keep the balance in the universe. But we might be thinking, oh, I've done so many sinful activities throughout my life. I don't want to have the punishment. I know for myself, before coming to Krishna consciousness, so many sinful activities. It's typical, in many ways, a typical American lifestyle. Meat with every meal. I won't even get into the other activities that were going on. So you're thinking, we are probably thinking, how do I mitigate these? And even if one is raised in a very religious and proper culture, even by accident, one commits so many sinful activities. And so there's also the process of atonement. And Prabhupada in the chapter summary and the purport describes the various methods by which one can atone for one's sinful activities. So one can atone through karma kanda, through the various kind of ritualistic or fruitive activities that one can do in order to counteract the various sinful activities of one's past. So these can be, either rituals or, pious activities that one can do in order to counteract bad karma. And if you, for example, if one studies Yotish, one goes to an expert Yotisha, they can even say like, oh, because of this planet, you should do this type of penance, this type of austerity or charity or things like that. One can also, as Prabhupada describes, go through jnana karma, by study of especially the Vedic literatures, or through mystic yoga. One can also counteract these sinful activities, these sinful reactions. But as we will read later on in this chapter, there is an issue with those. So actually, it's described later in the chapter that Shukadeva Goswami said, gives these prescriptions to Maharaj Parikshit as a sort of test to tell whether he's been listening. I don't know if anybody here has taught before. Sometimes you can give your students answer that kind of sounds right, but isn't, to make sure that they've been really paying attention. And Maharaj Parikshit, because he has been paying attention, gives kind of the correct answer to Shukadeva Goswami, which is saying that, okay, you give me these remedies, these activities to counteract my sinful activities. But, they might get rid of those sinful activities, but they won't stop me from committing more sinful activities. They won't remove the propensity to sin. So give me something that will not only remove the sinful activities, but also remove the propensity to sin again, that will remove the desires in the heart that will push us to be further entangled in material life. And Shukadeva Goswami gives, broadly speaking, the process of bhakti yoga that is beyond karma and jnana. Actually, karma and jnana, to be actually successful, need some bhakti in there, which is when they go from karma kanda and jnana kanda to karma yoga and jnana yoga, because of their attachment with the Supreme, their attachment with Krishna, which is bhakti. Bhakti, however, can be performed on its own without the admixture of karma and jnana. And actually in every stage of life, one can perform bhakti. For karma kanda or for karma yoga and jnana yoga, one might need some qualification. For these ritualistic ceremonies, things like that, one needs some resources to perform it. For jnana, one needs some sort of education to be able to study, but bhakti can be performed by anybody. We recently had Narasimha Chaturdasi, of course, connected with Lord Nrsingadev, is Prahlad Maharaj, who is 5 years old. What material qualification does a 5-year-old have? One might say his material qualification was that he was the son of a king, but that king was Hiranyakashipu. So is that really the qualification? So bhakti yoga is beyond the material, any material impediment. And of all of the processes of bhakti yoga, which there are 9, the one that is stressed in this chapter is that of chanting of the holy names of Krishna. And as we read in the summary, and we'll read throughout the chapter, even kind of accidentally chanting the names of Krishna, or any connection with that, is one is able to overcome material miseries. So Ajamil wasn't meaning to call out for Vishnu, for the Supreme Person. He was just calling out for his son. But because it was the same name, that he was liberated. And it was described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that somebody was Muslim, was being attacked by a boar. And of course, pigs and boars are considered very unclean, or they're considered haram. So he was shouting when he was being attacked, Harama, Harama. So he was chanting Ram. And even by that accidental chanting, he was liberated. And it's described that is even able to overcome the order carriers of Yamaraj by such a method. And one can hear stories, sometimes you can find them on the internet, even of modern people, that just come into contact with Krishna consciousness somehow, being saved from the order carriers of Yamaraj, the Yamadutas, by hearing the holy names, getting a book. I even heard a story one time of, you guys know the cover of, I think it was the Ishopanishad, Vishnu and Anantashesh behind them. I heard a story one time of where somebody got one of the copy, and then that night he was partying and overdosed on drugs, and the Yamadutas were coming to get him. Vishnu actually jumped out from the cover of the book and stopped him. And then he went to the temple, and because after an experience like that, what else are you going to do? So we should recognize also how much we are helping all of the conditioned souls by assisting Prabhupada in his mission of preaching to anyone and everyone. Because people don't even know that, they are in Maya. They just think this is life. That the craziness of the modern world, the suffering that goes on in the modern world is just normal. There's even a whole school of philosophy, existentialism, that just goes, everything is suffering and you might as well get used to it. And everything's just absurd and nothing makes sense. And people don't realize how much they are suffering from those philosophies. So we should take very seriously our mission to assist Srila Prabhupada in spreading this knowledge of Krishna everywhere, to actually elevate the entirety of society and to help liberate people from the clutches of illusion and actually show them that there is a way out of the suffering of modern material civilization. So I'll stop here. We have about 15 minutes left for any questions or comments, etc. Guess we'll start with our in-person audience. We're asking on Zoom. Yeah.
I have one quick question. Very nice class.
Thank you.
When we involve in Krishna consciousness,
Mhm.
We won't incur any karma. Our karmas will be, either pious or sinful. We won't incur any karma because we do the Krishna conscious
If we are involved in Krishna conscious activities, it's not that just because I'm a devotee that I don't get any more karma.
That's
right.
If I put Krishna in the center, whatever I am doing that is for Krishna, then I will incur any karma. That's what
Right.
the scripture says.
Hmm.
So I agree that the prarabdha karma I won't incur. But what happens to the aprarabdha karma, which I accumulated for my generations, which is staying as a sanchita karma in the pile of thing. As you said, when we get the body, we are taking only handful of karma from there, and then we get this body, and we are involved in Krishna conscious activities. So maybe that karma, whatever I got it.
So just to make sure I understand your question, you're asking like what happens to all the stored up karma, basically. It is also being destroyed by Krishna consciousness. That's actually one of the, I guess, excellences or super excellences of Krishna consciousness. Because I mentioned Yotish earlier, right? When the astrologer draws up your birth chart, right, or a prashna chart, they can only see what karma came into this body, or what you accumulated in this body. And they can only give remedies. So like a karma kanda sort of thing or a gyana kanda sort of thing. They can only see what specific karmas you brought into this body or you accumulated already in this body. And so they can only give you the remedies for those. They can't do anything for but spiritual practices, and specifically bhakti yoga, can actually do that. And it gets rid of all of the stored up karma. Any other questions, comments? Hare Krishna.
The end of the proposition again, at the end of the annihilation of the middle universe, towards the Brahmaloka, they will go to the back to form.
Mhm.
Even Brahmaloka is part of the middle universe. Anyway, maybe the chances of fall down from the Brahmaloka also.
Yeah, so generally on Brahmaloka, you do follow where Lord Brahma goes. It isn't always that Lord Brahma goes back to Goloka Vrindavan or to Vaikuntha at all. Sometimes Brahma goes to, if the Brahma in the universe was kind of impersonalistic, he might, get impersonal liberation. And then eventually he will, and all of his associates will come back down and then go through the process again. Our Brahma, like the one that we have right now, is pure devotee, so he'll go back. I am pretty sure that, yeah, when whoever is on Brahma Loka will go wherever Brahma goes, like they'll follow Brahma. Yeah, back home, either to, back home, back to Godhead, or in a universe where Brahma might not be a pure devotee, to, like the Brahman effulgence or something like that.
We were also once Brahmins in the culture. We
That-
fell
oh,
down
yeah,
from
that's a good point.
spiritual world, and we were Brahma once, then we fall. Yeah.
Yeah, so I suppose that, yeah, it would then, like by that logic, it would be possible that we fall back down.
These purpose are the current Brahma, who are the pious one. Who are saying that current Brahma, then I'll be ready to go back.
Unless, I mean, I suppose that it would be possible that we were Brahma, we got impersonal liberation, and then came back down. Yeah, so, yeah,
There are two ways you can be a Brahma. One is straight falling from spiritual world, and another
Yeah.
one is if you have enough pious credit
Yeah.
in this material world, then you are elevated to Brahma.
yeah, you have to follow your Dharma or whatever
Exactly.
Varna for 100 births. And then you can be Lord Brahma. So if anybody wants a promotion, that's what you have to do. Yeah, so I think, different things are said throughout the Bhagavatam. I think a more in-depth study is needed for a conclusive answer. All right. Do our in-person audience have any more questions or comments? All right, does anybody on Zoom have anything to add? Okay. I don't see anybody turning off their mics or raising their hands. So in that case, we will just end here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
You will go far.
Jai.
So you would be